Hello, everyone. Welcome to the event Many Homes, jointly presented by Iranian Studies Student Forum and Elahé Omidyar Mir-Djalali Institute of Iranian Studies. I am Gona Kim from Iranian Studies Student Forum and a PhD candidate at the Department of Near and Middle Eastern Civilization at the University of Toronto. My colleague, Haniye Bakhtiari, will introduce today's wonderful speakers and chair the session. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to recognize and extend my gratitude to individuals, in addition to today's wonderful speakers, whose support made this event possible. Firstly, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to Dr. Elahé Omidyar Mir-Djalali, whose support of the Elahé Omidyar Mir-Djalali Institute of Iranian Studies has made this program possible. I'd also like to thank Professor Mohammad Tabakoli Tarki, the inaugural director of the center, who has been strong support and endless inspiration to the students of Iranian Studies Student Forum. My sincerest thanks also goes to Bilal Hashmi, executive officer of the center, and Leila Moslemi, a representative of the Student Forum, for organizing this event, but who is away today. Thank you everyone for being here as well. My colleague, Haniye Bakhtiari, a PhD student at the Department of Near and Middle Eastern Civilization, will moderate today's talk. Before I transfer floor to Haniye, I wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. I will now hand my mic to Haniye. Haniye, floor is yours.
Thank you everyone for showing up today. So before we start the talk, I will just introduce our first two speakers. Elena Soní, Artistic Director at Making Art, Making Change. Elena Soní was born and raised in Caracas, Venezuela. Elena came to Canada in 1980 to pursue a university education, and as her country descended into chaos, built a new life in Toronto. As a board member of Children's Own Museum, COM, she co-designed its programming. Elena has exhibited her work in solo shows and collective exhibitions. She has worked with artists associated with Workman Arts. This project was presented at the AGO for the 25th anniversary celebration of the foundation of Workman Arts and subsequently at Rideau Hall. Elena was art specialist junior grades at the Mabin School, Toronto, Canada. Since 2009, Vanessa Barnett and Elena have designed innovative arts programming for at-risk youth, school, and the elderly and new immigrants in partnership with local cultural organizations. Now under the name of Making Art, Making Change, MAMC, they continue to offer a safe space for groups to invest in shared experience. And I'm also introducing our second speaker, Vanessa Barnett, Artistic Director at Making Art, Making Change. Vanessa Barnett is an artist educator providing dynamic leadership and teaching in the arts in teacher education, artist residencies in schools, and cultural organizations. Vanessa immigrated from South Africa at the height of apartheid's years and began teaching at the ROM and in Toronto schools. Vanessa held the positions of visual art instructional leader and program coordinator of the arts in the TDSB. She taught the visual arts additional qualifications courses at York University, as well as working with educators in the International Leadership Program. Vanessa taught in the Creative Arts Program in the School of Early Childhood Studies at Toronto Metropolitan University and was the recipient of the Faculty of Community Services 2021-2022 Sue Williams Excellence in Teaching Award. She was awarded the Ray Blackwell Award for Excellence in Art Education by the Ontario Art Education Association. Vanessa established MAMC, Making Art, Making Change, with long-term collaborator Elena Soní. Together, they have received several Ontario Art Council and Toronto Art Council grants, working with equity-deserving groups, including youth, seniors, newcomers, and women. And yeah, we welcome you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting us, and thank you for taking the time to listen to us. We'll try to be brief. Vanessa and I are both immigrants, and something that has always been part of us is dislocation, transformation. The transformation through having to adapt and adopt things, characteristics and behaviors to where you come next. And then you redefine yourself. And that has always been part of the work. That has always been what we ask people when we work with them. In 2016, when Justin Trudeau welcomed the Syrian refugees, Vanessa and I thought that we would like to partner with an institution that would give a home and a voice to the young people who were arriving here, dislocated from their lives, still not knowing who they were here. And we came up with Finding Home. Thanks to a relationship between these two beautiful women, we went to the Aga Khan to suggest that we would do a project with young people, sponsored by the Aga Khan, to ask them, what's home? We were in the school system, in the catchment area of the museum, and we had newcomers, refugees, and first-generation Canadians. And that's all I'm going to say for now.
So here is the facade of the Aga Khan Museum, and it was a real privilege to have been associated with Ruba, who had invited me to write a curriculum document in support of the materials that were in the museum, and make it available to schools from early grades, grade 3 until grade 12. And I hope they use that document, Ruba. So the idea of welcoming youth into a museum who lived in the vicinity but had never been there and felt that in fact it wasn't their place. And we wanted to really demystify that experience by opening the doors. And when we had this wonderful discussion with Ruba, she said, yes, of course, let's make it happen. We applied for an Arts Council grant, which we got, and then went to one of the ESL schools. And what was so fascinating was that some of the students were just so newly arrived. Many of them, this was the beginning of September, had just come and didn't have language facility. And it was so fascinating to be able to see that by talking to them and working and doing something that was very creative, they found language in an incredibly rapid way because it was authentic learning. we're going to show you the film that we made, which will bring these young people to you. And then we're going to talk about some of the imagery that was created. We worked with over 300 students, and we still remember their names and know them intimately because their work spoke with such passion about their individuality and about their remarkable stories.
I think that one of the reasons Negar wanted to have us here today was her question to us was, how do cultural institutions do outreach with communities that are not just, for example, in terms of the Aga Khan, it's a museum that is specific to the Muslim world, if you're not looking properly. And the other museums in Toronto are specific to what most of us have had to adapt to. European centered way of doing. And I think what you were talking to this young man over here about the blue and white pottery, ceramics, is very interesting because you'll see a photograph and everybody was looking for when you have a beautiful plate in the Aga Khan that you can use, where it's signed on the back in Chinese characters, but it's actually
It's a Persian one.
it's a Persian. Yeah.
And it's not an imitation.
I'm sure it's the real deal. Anyway, so I think that you can always find aspects in any collections that will resonate with lived experience of the public. And if you're asking teenagers, which are especially difficult to engage, bringing it back to them, to what they're interested in, is very important. And we'll go through that photograph very quickly because I'm just going to tell you what happened. These two young people who had come from China and were not that excited about going to a museum that was about Muslim art. Yeah.
There he is.
There he is. Suddenly they saw this and they were, oh, but I understand what's, yes. Also a young man from Ethiopia who had just arrived with his family because they were persecuted as Muslims in Ethiopia. Suddenly, I wish I had the photograph still. He saw a Quran and suddenly started weeping and reading it. So somehow this museum was no longer, it was his.
Immediate identification. Sadly, the video isn't working. We did embed it here, but it doesn't seem to be picking up. So we'll skip that, but it is on the website. So as I was saying, we had students who had very little language, or they were first generation and were very articulate. But we found that using the cell phones, which were ubiquitous, this became a remarkable way of communication. And Google Translate, I mean, we're talking about 2016 when we did this, is already active. And the students were sort of able to talk amongst themselves with, great, and we could give them questions which they would then translate, so that it became a medium. And they were able to show us photographs of their parents, their home, from their environment that they lived in, so that this really made it very authentic. We, as I said, worked with three schools, and the idea was to create this very large installation which was going to be in dialogue with the Syria exhibition. And if you see the next photograph, these are a group of the Syrian students who came to see the Syria exhibition. And it was, I think, a very difficult and very emotional experience for them, because some of them could actually identify the buildings. And they said, why have you brought us here? This is really difficult. And that was a very important conversation, to talk about those sensitivities of the traumatic stress which many of them had suffered, but nevertheless to understand that in fact the world was seeing what was going on was really important, and we felt ultimately it was valuable that we had come.
Well, and also the exhibit wasn't about the bombed out Syria. It was about the richness of the culture of Syria. So, the kids were, well, why am I here doing this? And then we said, no, we're not here looking at bombed shelters. We're here so that you know that we know that before you became this, you were an amazing culture, alive for centuries. Anyway, so this is us putting up we're very hands-on, considering, because there's Vanessa and I doing everything. So this is us just before the exhibit, setting up all the countries that were represented by the students in the schools. So you can see, Toronto is an interesting city. That's a girl discovering the pin of the country where she came from. That was very important for them to see that they were the ones who were talking, not us.
That's just the film.
This is us. This is in the installation. We became very close friends with a gentleman who opened and closed the museum. He would let us in at 4 o'clock at night and let us out at 10 o'clock at night for a week to put these up. And just before we opened, we're touching up. And each child received 2 wooden platforms and then lots of found materials. So, and their question was, what is home to you? So we'll give you individual examples, but what happened here is that it became this incredible neighborhood of different homes, which is what we are here.
And almost a metaphor for what we hope a Canadian immigration would be, and that people should be welcomed and acknowledged and find a place and an authentic voice. So the installation was in the hallway at the Aga Khan Museum.
It was a nightmare.
And Ruby helped to fight for that space, because the idea that student work was going to be there alongside 100-year-old or more artifacts was quite a contentious thing. But in fact, the work had so many visitors and so much response in terms of the sort of depth that students went to create artwork, which just went beyond our imaginations. They were so self-generating. So when we talk about home, I'll just try and put this down. It might be a structure of what home looks like, but it also could be an artifact where one could talk about what was meaningful in terms of something which had been left behind. This student who'd come from the Dominican Republic remembered her record player and the Billy Joel playing on Billy Joel's Vienna. And so it was so interesting. We didn't set parameters about what people were going to do at all. It was the idea of, here were those two boards, what were you going to do with them? We spoke them through the ideas that they had, and they wrote. But it was so individual and just so exciting to see what came. So this is one of my absolute favorite ones, and the young student's name is Koshbo, and she was a young Afghani student, and she created the structure with the texture, which was very much her home, and the wall, the mountains that she saw beyond her window. And she kept saying, you know, Vanessa, there's a carpet that is in all Afghani homes, and I really am looking for this, and do you think you could find me something like this? And then a few days later she arrived and she brought this piece.
We did try.
We did, and this piece was there, and I said, Koshbo, you found it. Where did it come from? So she said, I lifted up the couch and I cut out a little piece, and I have covered it because I wanted it to be so perfect. And you know, that was the depth and the meaningfulness of what this experience was.
Bread and cheese on the
Yes.
top?
Yes, yes.
Well, no, but made. Everything is made.
Out of paper mache, out of found materials, found objects.
Her father found out. He found the hole. Not a good scene. No, but I mean, he got over himself. Anyway, so this is Fatima. This is a girl from Slovakia of Roma origin. Very disengaged. She was on her phone all the time, talking to her friends wherever they were. And then we noticed her nails. I mean, we had been working with her for maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And Vanessa, who has beautiful nails, I don't, said, you've got gorgeous nails. Do you do them yourself? And it was all a lot of nails and beauty. And then she said that she did, and that she had been a manicurist in Slovakia. So I went home. I have a collection of hands. I love hands. And I brought it back for her, and we suggested that maybe she could work with that. And then I asked her, who are you speaking with? Because she was constantly, you know. And it was her friends. And I said, why don't you incorporate your friends into this hand as if you were holding them? We won her over. She did everything else herself. Wow. This boy took me for an interesting historical ride. I was taking names and places of birth, and he said, Moscow. No, he said, I'm Afghani. And I said, okay, where in Afghanistan were you born? No, I was born in Moscow. And it hit me like a wave, because, wait a minute, at the time we were with the American invasion. The Americans were there. So I said, oh, okay, so your parents must have worked for the Russians. And again, it is such a, it's the sadness of how regular people's lives are completely destroyed by power politics. And they were living, that's Red Square, I've never been to Moscow. And he said we were not welcome there either. So again,
the dislocation.
the dislocation and, you know, the hopes of these people that we can come here and redefine our lives.
In the film, which we hope that we will be able to show, is a young man who had come from Syria. He is at a table for two, and in the film he recounts that his parents were killed and that he is here by himself and making a new life.
With his brother.
With his brother. And the depth of his appreciation for having come and for what Canada had given him, even in the short while that he had been there, was so profound. And we know that he's gone on to university and done some wonderful things subsequently. And you know, that piece really was such a standout piece in terms of the way that he created the food so meticulously on that table, and the
but only for two.
Force, the impact of the fact that there are people who are missing from that table.
Oh, yes, this girl. What was her name? Khadija. Khadija is Pakistani. She's first generation Pakistani.
How old?
17. Her family, she still has family in Pakistan, and they go regularly. Her parents have an orange orchard in Pakistan. You see the oranges in the basket. But she's also a Canadian girl, and she reads a lot. At the time, she was all about the Bronte sisters. And what she does here is read everything she can get her hands on. So her home in Toronto has a sofa like we would see in any Western house. And in Pakistan is another completely different environment. And for her, it's, and maybe it's something that we all experience. We have a foot here and we have a foot wherever we left from.
So this is one of the most poignant pieces by a young man who came from Bangladesh, who's called Siam. And this started off with drapery, with more furniture. It was very embellished. And as he looked at it, as the weeks went by, he began to pare down everything that was there, to take off the drapery, to take off any of the detail, so that what was left was the home that he was leaving. And it was the empty desk, the suitcase packed to go, and the spareness of what was left. Also talking about, you know, what it means to leave and the heartache of going, and possibly, you know, the uncertainty of what's to come.
And
How old was this?
they were all between
17,
17, 18.
Do you know what has become of him?
No, we don't. Of Siam, no. It's very, but I think,
This is very sophisticated.
yes.
Minimalist.
Well, but he's,
Yeah.
but he started with stereo systems,
You just removed things.
Yes.
you know, disco lights. I mean, and we said, you need a disco ball? We'll find you a disco ball. And we'd go and find him the disco ball. And then, and it was all there. But he needed to,
And you could see that sort of ambiguity and the ambivalence of, you know, what was happening in this very over-decorated situation. And then the realization that in fact this was a beautiful wooden structure, and it was all about what home was, that this is man-made, this is created. And
But everything he lost,
it's gone.
you know, when he
It's
came,
gone.
when it's gone. And initially he wanted to show us how well off they were in Chittagong. And it's called listening. You listen. And you keep, yes, you need a disco ball, we'll give you a disco ball. You need pillows, we'll give you pillows.
Yeah.
And
But-
then he took them out.
But also that conversation, you know, where you move in and out of the conversation with students. You hear them, it's that very careful pedagogy of listening, as we call it. And then seeing, you know, what was happening in his life, and as he told his stories, and familiarity and safeness, when you realize that in fact you're in a situation where people begin to trust.
Where are these works now? Are they back
So
in
this
the
is a
US?
very fascinating question
it's
to
a
ask.
very sad story.
So in the one school, which was the immersion school, they were able to take them, and they still stand in the foyer of the school, and we've seen them on subsequent occasions. The others, there was an administration that wasn't all that supportive after it had its great showing at the Aga Khan, and we wanted it again to be in the hallway, and they said, well, we'll put it in one of the prefabs for a while we decide. And so we don't know what's in prefab 5. It may still be there.
I don't think
We
so.
don't think so. But we did document, and we did create
I mean, there is a book
a book
with
of
every
what-
single piece. It's not a beautiful book,
It is,
but
it is
it's
there,
documentation.
And
You-
the film.
and the
yeah.
film.
So the film is in our website,
Okay.
and I think giving you the link of the shortened version. And
To play now?
no,
Okay.
no, you said for later, no?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it.
Yes, I believe so. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Incredible.
So we will move to Negar Sagharichi. I'll also give everyone a quick biography of Negar, who is a museum professional. Negar is a museum professional, and she has over 15 years of experience in different museums and archives in Canada and Iran. From 2008 to 2023, Negar worked as a museum curator, exhibition manager, and educator in various Iranian institutions, including Sadabad Complex and the Malik National Library and Museum. Since 2024, she's been the collection registrar for the Tabakoli Archive and has been collaborating with the Elahé Omidyar Mir-Djalali Institute of Iranian Studies. As a museum educator, she designed numerous interactive workshops for the second generation's immigrants, children, and youth with autism and people with Alzheimer's disease. She also curated more than 50 temporary and traveling exhibitions, as well as 5 permanent ones. Negar Sagharichi holds a master's degree in Near and Middle Eastern civilizations from the University of Toronto, and she also did her bachelor degree in museum studies from the Cultural Heritage Higher Education Center, and a master's degree in the same field from Tehran University of Art. And we're ready to listen to you.
Thank you, Anja. Thank you, Dr. Tawakkoli, for your support, always supporting us, and Dr. Elahé Omidyar Mir-Djalali. And also I want to thank Sudawar Memorial Foundation for supporting me through the past year. And also thank you, Gonhajan. And specifically, I want to thank Leila for always supporting us in ISSF, and Belaljan. So let's begin. So I would like to begin with a personal reflection. I've always been an immigrant, even within my own country, Iran, as I was away from my city. This experience installed in me a deep commitment to supporting immigrant and refugee communities. For me, this goal was crystallized when I recognized the profound capacity of museums, libraries, and archives to play a significant active role in social integration and cultural navigation. The experience I'm about to share with you today represents my final project for my MA in Museum Studies, a project built entirely upon this core objective. This project began with a central question: how can a museum functioning as an intercultural space, utilizing its tools and programs to help the second generation of immigrant children navigate and understand cultural similarities and differences, thereby creating a meaningful intercultural experience for its audience? Initially, I pursued designing this project here in North America. However, my focus dramatically shifted due to a crisis that had become increasingly severe in Iran, the story of Afghan refugee labor children. By labor children, I mean the children between 5 and 15 who has to work fully, like 40 hours per week. Due to the extreme situation in Afghanistan, their families had arrived in Iran without legal documentation. This meant that children could not obtain an Iranian ID card and were therefore banned from attending public school. They are very right. This critical need drove us into action. They began reaching out to various NGOs, but securing participation was so challenging. The project was difficult, and not all organizations were willing to take the risk. Ultimately, 2 of the NGOs we connected answered our call, and with them our journey began, a challenging but rewarding 3-year commitment that started in December 2013. The first year was dedicated solely to research. Following that, our team of educators underwent essential training led by NGOs, and only then we began to design the workshops. Our first workshop was successfully held on May 10, 2015, and the last one was on August 10, 2017. So we had some, let's say, projects done before us. The Belonging Project in Ireland, encouraging the development of empathy toward immigrants in 2015, the Mela European Museum in an Age of Immigrants from 2011 to 2015, and MAP for ID museums as a place for intercultural dialogue from 2007 to 2009. To make sure that the project is in the right direction, and to be able to significantly design the workshops and analyze the results, we used Milton J. Bennett's DMSI model he developed from 1986 to 2013. DMIS is a framework to explain how people experience and engage cultural differences. The DMIS continuum extends from ethnocentrism to experience from one's own culture as central to reality, to ethno-relativism, the experience of one's own and other cultures as relative to context. This is a one-way spectrum from denial, that can see, to integration, from defense, minimization, acceptance, adaptation, and integration, which is integration is the final stage where an expanded sense of self allows for the seamless, sustainable inclusion of cultural differences, enabling movement between context states to achieve meta-coordination, which is experienced personally as development, cultural liminarity, and organizationally as the creation of third cultural solution. So, let's look at the project. Who was involved? First, who answered our call as NGOs that are supporting Afghan refugee labor children? Our primary NGO partner for the project was ILIA, a non-governmental, non-profit, and non-political organization. Elia began its vital work in 2006 to improve the quality of life for children in need of special support in Tehran and Karaj. Elia began they based their activities on community-based method across field of education, health, and social support. Their core mission is to enable children to have meaningful participation in activities related to themselves and to provide them with access to knowledge. Elia impact is significant. They have provided support and education to more than 1,000 labor children who were forced to leave school. They have also created home-based job opportunities for more than 2,000 women who were single mothers. Second, the Society for the Defense of Street Labor Children, or we call it Jamiyat Defa. This is the second NGO partner, and they are independent, non-governmental organization. The founders of Jamiyat Defa have been involved in direct practical work with children, especially street and labor children. These street children are in really critical situation in Iran. Since the year 2000, they operate entirely independently without affiliation to any governmental or other non-governmental institutions. To purpose the establishment, this organization is clear and results to make very effort for the complete elimination of child labor and all forms of child abuse, and to fight for the realization of children's rights and equal living conditions for all children. The third, Malek National Library and Museum, was a key institutional partner. Its history is rooted in a significant act of philanthropy. The entire treasure was endowed for the public use by Haj Hossein Malek in 1937. Operating as a non-governmental and non-profit entity, the institution strictly follows the terms of its original endowment deed. The Museum and Libraries Act defines a broad and impactful mission which includes promoting public knowledge and cultural awareness, and preserving, collecting, updating, and expanding collections. Iran Dolls Museum, our final institution partner, which at that time called the International Museum of Doll, established as a private museum in Tehran in 2000. The museum holds an extensive and fascinating collection aimed to promoting both tangible and intangible heritage. Its collection includes over 2,000 dolls from 86 different countries, historical and tribal costumes, and the museum's activities are directly aligned with its goal of raising awareness and educating visitors about the cultures and traditions of Iran and other nationalities, with a specific and important focus on literature. To ensure we could provide effective activities and design truly useful workshops, our project included a dedicated preparation phase. As I mentioned, we were trained by NGOs, and then we tasked with simply spending time with the children in their existing safe spaces. This was essential for building relationships and ensuring that children trusted the team because they recognized them as figures already certified by their NGOs. Because with adults, believe me, that labor children feel the most insecure, as unless they know that people perfectly. Once that trust was established, we posed our very first question to the children. What do you think? What do you think about a museum? And their responses are varied and insightful. Some children chose to write down their thoughts, some expressed their opinions verbally, and some chose to ignore the question totally. So this is what Rogak shared with us. A museum is a useless, boring place, and there are things that are no use. I think a cemetery is much better than a museum because it is in graveyard. what you should do with the dead people is clear, but I don't know what to do with useless historical objects. However, if it's possible to pick up the objects, sell them, and use the money, that would be good. Oh, sorry.
That's very Trumpian.
If you want to take a picture.
Who is the author of this?
A guy who called himself Rogak. That was nickname.
But a guy as in not a child?
No, he was 12.
Well, he is a child.
He's a child.
Is it child?
He's a child. All of them are child. All of them were under like 16.
So
Ateşen bad needs.
Yes, not bad.
he was a child labor.
He was a child labor. Yes, he was a child labor. So, the workshops, design and execution. Our 4 workshops were intentionally held at the location of our partner NGOs, the very first 4 workshops. This crucial decision ensured the children maintained a feeling of physical and emotional safety in a recognized environment. First, minting coin, addressing value and identity. Based on advice from the NGO directors, we designed the first workshop around the children's most immediate concern, money. The activity involved the traditional process of minting coins. This activity was contextualized with images of ancient coins from the Malik Museum, featuring the names of various kings. We asked the children to search for their own names among these historical rulers. For those who found their names, the moment was transformative. They proudly declared themselves king. And this simple act fostered a powerful sense of pride and historical identity. So the second workshop was designing a poster. It was directly informed by a research like the one Behruz Abdoli and his team published in the Motor Behavior Journal in 2012, indicating that labor children often have underdeveloped fine motor skills. To address this, the NGO's need for better teamwork skills essential for street life, because they need to live as a team while they're working in a street or field on construction departments. So they asked us to design this workshop as a collaborative workshop. The children had to work as a team to redesign a poster featuring the paintings of Kamal-ul-Mulk, a famous 18th-19th century Iranian painter, whose works are preserved in Iranian museums. This activity simultaneously addressed developmental needs and introduced them to Iranian art culture. Third, that was, for us, was really hard, making a talisman armlet, your expertise. So, very generally speaking, an armlet is a kind of talisman traditionally functioning to keep its owner from harm. So educators shared the story of and different uses of an old armlet kept in Malik Museum. The children were then asked to make their own armlets and write down what they wished to be kept away from. So some of the armlets they created held shocking secrets and urgent disclosures that were immediately and confidentially handed over to the NGOs for necessary follow-up and action. 4, a half-blood hero, shared heritage and storytelling. The final workshops held in NGOs occasions focused on a figure of shared heritage between Iran and Afghanistan, Rostam, the great hero of Shahnameh by Ferdowsi. He emphasized that Rostam was a half-blood hero, the son of an Iranian father, Zal, and an Afghan mother, Rudabe. After the story was told, the children chose a character and learned how to make a basic model of a doll for their chosen persona. This final activity used storytelling and making to celebrate their shared culture background and mixed identity. Then they came to the museum. So, on-site workshops, with trust established, when they trusted us actually, the time came for the children to visit the museums. A critical steps and project. First, our workshop at the National, all these workshops held at the National Malik Library and Museum, then we will move to the International Museum of Dolls. Meeting the King, identity and storytelling at the Malik Museum. During the first visit to the Malik Museum, the children were welcomed by an educator dressed as the King, Qajar King Nassereddin Shah. The King shared the museum's history before guiding them through the exhibitions. Following the tour, they participated in a doll-making workshop led by educators from International Museum of Dolls. This time, the task was to write a short story based on their wishes and then create a doll to represent that story. The activity held a new, rich collection of stories directly attached to a tangible object. At the end of the day, we asked them to draw a painting from their museum experience and to be collected at the next meeting. 6, shadow puppet show. So the next visit focused on a shadow puppet making workshop and practice session. Because the children had already connected strongly with Shahnameh, educators from a Razegardune group told them the story of Simurgh and Zal. They were then asked to work as a group to rewrite this classic story using their own imagination, create a shadow puppet, and rehearse a show for later performance. It was this point that the participants from Jamiat Defa had to leave the project. Unfortunately, this incredible center was temporarily shut down by Iranian government, meaning the children from that center could not longer participate in our program. The next, as you can see at the bottom right, the day I became Kamal al-Mulk, digital storytelling. The visit centers on an exhibition of paintings by Kamal al-Mulk and his family. The children were already familiar with the painter from our second workshop, but this time they were shown his unfinished work, The Old Man's Reading. Educators from the Shahrstad Digital Storytelling Group asked them to complete a printed version of the painting based on their own narratives. While they painted, the educators photographed the process and recorded the story of these new paintings in the children's own voices. Finally, children and educators collaborated to mix the voices and images, creating a complete digital story. Now, let's take a moment and listen to one of these stories.
من همسایه درختان زردآلو و انگور هستم. من 4 فصل زندگی می کنم: بهار، تابستان، پاییز و زمستان. بعضی از همسایه های من در فصل زمستان میوه می دهند و سبز می شوند. بعضی ها فقط برگ دارند. اما من درخت سیب هستم و الان به خواب زمستانی رفتم. خودم را برای بهار آماده می کنم تا سبز و پرمیوه شوم. امسال در خواب بودم که یک لحظه بیدار شدم و دیدم که پسری از شاخه های من بالا می رود و بازی می کند. به آرامی سلام کردم. به او گفتم عزیزم از شاخه های من پایین بیا، ممکن است آسیب ببینی. پسر به آرامی پایین آمد و سلام کرد. پسری مهربان و با ادب بود. این اولین باری بود که من در وسط فصل زمستان بیدار شده بودم. بعد از چند ماه دیگر به بهار رسیدیم. آن پسر آمد. به او گفتم اگر دلت میخواهد از من بالا برو و چند میوه برای خود بکن. من و پسر بدین ترتیب همیشه با یکدیگر دوست شدیم. من در کشور آمریکا هستم و در یک جنگل بزرگ در کنار آن پسر و همسایه های خود زندگی می کنم. اگر به جای کمال الملک بودم درخت را بزرگتر و در کنار آن پسری می‌کشیدم.
This sounds like Sanatara Changi. It's so beautifully composed poem.
And so creative, actually. Imagining an old man reading a book as a tree, that was so fascinating.
Boy, climbing up that. Really incredible.
So, the exhibition, the last part of Malek Museum contribution to this project. The final project at the Malek National Library and Museum was the exhibition designed to showcase the dolls, stories, and paintings that the children had created. Crucially, we did not want to simply design the exhibit and invite them to visit. We wanted them to own the space. We asked the children to offer the materials for showcasing their work, reflecting the environment around their living spaces. They chose car tires to use as display showcases. We worked together to paint and decorate the tires. The children placed or hung their dolls from them, requested prints of their stories, and even wrote lines from other children's narratives onto the tires. This was truly their space. For the opening event, we invited all participating children. They proudly performed remember shadow puppet? Right. They rehearsed. Now they performed the shadow puppet show they had prepared. And for the closure ceremony, the digital stories they had created and voiced were screened. Children attended with family members and NGO staff, and among lots of other audiences. And most importantly, they participated in a session where they critiqued the workshops and offered advice for future improvements. This was a profound moment. The children who had been hesitant to share their opinions at the very beginning were now bravely and articulately criticized the work and giving us clear advice. This confirmed that project's success in fostering their voice, confidence, and self-worth. So the next step, we moved to International Museum of Dolls. The children were now ready for the next level of engagement. Their transition to the International Museum of Dolls, where the focus shifted to more serious doll making and deepest cross-cultural learning. First, the pictures you can see on the left, the dolls and ethics cultures of Iran. At the museum, the educators did not just run dolls making sessions. They used the act of creation as a lens to explore the rich ethnic culture of Iran. First, they studied the Dutuk or Tajmiri doll from Tajmir in Khorasan Junubi or Southern Khorasan, a region close to Afghan border. This culture held a familiarity that eased them into the process. Next, they traveled to south, to Hormozgan province, where they made a Dukhtuluk doll, learning about its function and the local culture behind it. And finally, their journey took them to Sistan and Baluchistan, another region near the Afghan border, where they created Lu'batak or Lubtak, and learned how this doll helped its rural community. Then the next step was arguably the most important. The children were introduced to cultures that at first glance seemed dramatically different from those of Afghanistan or even Iran. However, the workshop revealed that they shared far more with these distant cultures than they initially thought. The children explored three cultures through their dolls. They created Lingakoba, a doll from Zulu tribe in South Africa, learning about this tribe and country's traditions. They learned to make a Kubishka Travintsa from Russia, a nation that had historically shared significant culture and geopolitical ties with Afghanistan. And then They traveled to Guatemala to make worry dolls, learning how this simple doll helped children cope with difficult times and its important role in Guatemala culture. By the end of this profound cultural journey, the children were fully prepared and empowered to return and celebrate the beauty and richness of their own Afghan culture. Final workshop. Let's hear about Afghanistan. The project came to an end with our 10th and final workshop, where the focus circled back to children's own heritage. Let us hear about Afghanistan. For this session, the children were tasked with becoming cultural researchers. They went back to their family members, their grandparents, their parents, and asked them to share stories, traditions, and details about dolls and ceremonies in Afghanistan. This was a culture that for a long time the families may have felt pressured not to mention or share openly. The results were truly inspiring. The children returned with a collection of beautiful and rich stories about various aspects of Afghan culture and dolls. They then created their final beautiful dolls based on these personal family narratives, which they proudly presented to the museum. The final act of cultural relative and celebration demonstrated the project's ultimate success, empowering the children to recognize and value their own rich, beautiful heritage. So the final session made a completion of our 10-part workshop series. Before wrap up, we made one last request. We asked children to once again write down their thoughts about the museum or to describe their feelings from that very first visit. For many, this was the moment they truly felt connected to the space. So the shift in their responses from beginning to the project was profound. The museum was a beautiful place. On the way, I thought a lot about where the museum was and what it was like. The museum is a place where there are paintings of the Shah and Shahnameh. On the way, I thought, is that a beautiful place? And are we going to paint? I thought that it was a cold place and faraway place, but it was a place I hated. Maybe it was a place I hated. I thought I was playing a role. On the way, I thought that it was a very beautiful place, and then I saw that I was right. My thought was right. It was right. It was. So.
Is this Ruka?
No.
Go back to the first guy.
So we had some challenges. Challenges in data collection because they were kids. We couldn't just hand them over some questionnaires and ask them, give us your opinions and something. Because at the first moment, they didn't even trust us. So that was one challenge. The complexity of target demographic, because they had to work. It wasn't easy for them to participate whenever we want. And it was under a lot of pressure from their families and their communities also. And also, because they lived almost far from the center of Tehran, participating inside of a museum was a little bit critical for them. So for the solution, we first moved the main research workshops to the NGO sites. Then we organized 5th, 6th, and 7th workshops and also exhibition and the ceremonies inside of Malek Museum, which was closer to their NGOs. And at the end, we also negotiated with the city of Tehran to secure transportation vehicles. Thanks to them, they offered us free transportation vehicles. So remember, we talked about the MIS model and the levels. At the beginning of the program, we began with 150 children participating in 6 workshops. 64 children remained, 38 were actively involved, and 8 participated only passively. We have like little number from the 7th workshop because the closure of the Jamiat Defa. So We also gave the results to blind reviewers, and based on their analysis, 2 participants remained in denial level, 3 in defense, 17 in minimization level, 2 in acceptance, 12 in adaptation, and 2 in integration level. I want, at the end of this long, long talk, I want to thank a few people, if you let me. First, the supervisor of this project, Dr. Mehdi Keshavarz-Afshar, who helped me kindly and openly, and also Dr. Kurostamanian, the director of Museum Studies Department, for supporting this. And I also want to thank all the institutions who participated, because it was like taking a lot of risk, and they took it. Malik Museum Director and CEO Reza Dabinejad and Mojtaba Hosseini, Masoud Naserian and Ali Gulshan from International Museum of Dolls, Monira Zumandi from Ilya, and Akbari Yazdi from Jamiat Defa, and also my amazing, amazing colleagues, educators who participated in this program. From Shahzad Digital Storytelling, Raze Gardune, Shakib Abedzadeh, Shabnaz Shabcheshme, Elahé Haririan, Behnaz Rezai, Salah Rafiyan, specifically Mohammad Nourouzi, who was super creative, the Nasiruddin Shah you saw. He is an amazing creative person, really educator, amazing educator. And finally, I want to thank all the children who participated. Despite the difficult situation they had, they patiently participated in this program. They came with us to the end of the workshops, and I'm so grateful. Thank you all. Thank you. So, any questions?
Yeah, we will go for any questions from the audience or people online. They can just drop their questions in the chat box, or they can just unmute themselves and ask the questions if they wish to. And yeah.
So what's next?
We wanted to do something really interesting. One of my dear colleagues in Iran, Raika Khorshidian, did a project, an amazing project. Raika, yeah, you know Raika. Raika held different workshops in different countries to introduce the Iranian culture to children from Brazil, Russia, Japan, and the results were amazing. We wanted to do something with Iranian children to introduce the culture of Afghanistan to them, to see how they will cope with this. But because of some personal difficulties I had at that time, and then because of the outbreak of COVID, we couldn't manage to hold this. So that was the final, organized project we had for labor children. We worked later with labor children on and off, but not like this, in a really well-designed series of workshops and programs.
Have you published this?
Not yet.
What's next? No, seriously, this is such a brilliant project.
Really, the thinking that has gone into organizing is so brilliant.
Yeah, and the results are really incredible. Just moving. Some of these children's responses are really moving. You should publish it. It's really wonderful. Yeah.
One thing is that we designed each workshop based on the results of the previous workshop. Mm-hmm. That helps us to go forward, and that helps us to become useful.
You almost have it. You just read it to us.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be thinking, this takes another 6 months or something. You should really aim at publishing it.
I will.
Do you think you would do this here?
I think it's.
There's a huge Afghan diaspora.
Not just Afghani. We can.
Syrian.
Yes, we can tailor this series of workshops here, because there's a huge population of second generation of immigrants because I'm insisting that we should work with the second generation of immigrants because they don't want to immigrate. They forced because they're immigrating with their families. And the pressure on them is way more than their first generation. And they can receive like severe damages, emotional damages because of that immigration process. Even it's hard for adults. The process of immigration is hard for adults, let alone for children. Yes, I think that, I really love to tailor this project here in Canada, specifically because Aga Khan Museum and ROM have collections of Islamic art and from different cultures that can create a connection. Yeah.
Can I just say that the two projects we've heard are all about creating relevance for immigrant children. And I think that the different ways, like using creative acts to find yourself and be able to express yourself, are incredibly empowering. Mm-hmm. And it's almost that use of art, that therapeutic use of art. Mm-hmm. It's incredible that you guys found each other. And, you know, mm-hmm. I can't think of a better way to spend a Friday afternoon. It's very uplifting to see. So thank you.
And enabling, really.
And thanks to you that offer this connection. I'm really grateful, really, for this connection.
There is a question over there if we don't have a question in the room.
Saida?
Yes. Given the heightened state of oppression and societal discrimination against Afghans during the 12-day war, do you know if any museum programming is currently engaging Afghans communities in Iran, or do you think it is entirely impossible at the moment?
It is not impossible, of course, but I don't think that any of them now take some actions because now they're dealing with lots of difficulties. Some of them has not been opened yet after the war. Just the National Museum of Iran opened like 2 days ago, 3 days ago. Some of them are open now, but not all of them. They're struggling with the situation of post-war situation actually right now. But I think that they're willing now. Not about the Afghan refugee labor children or Afghan children in Iran, which now are in really difficult situation. They've always been in difficult situation in Iran. But I know that some museums start to do something about the society. Like I know that now Contemporary Museum of Art in Tehran are holding a series of tours for elderlies. Like, that is a good start, let's say. They're getting back to the society.
You're being very kind and generous.
But I remember at that time, the situation for Afghan labor children in Iran was really bad. Yeah. They couldn't obtain ID card. But I remember that in the middle of this project, they started to give them some ID cards so they could participate in schools.
And now?
And now the situation is bad again.
Yeah.
Again. Specifically after the war or between the war.
Yeah.
Definitely reenacting it here.
I think
Something
it's
like
very
collaboratively,
yeah.
You know, with their
there are
creative, really outstanding work that you both have done.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Yes.
Yeah.
of need here.
Yeah.
And we can lend you our seminar room. It's too small.
It's not. Actually, there's no need for huge space. Everywhere we can hold like workshops everywhere with the smaller groups. Like
oh my God, University of Toronto has spaces for days. We just have to find
Maybe
it.
you have to rent it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely.
It was a very, just like yours. It's incredibly rewarding
Yeah.
and
Yes.
very humbling.
Yeah.
It is. And I had this chance to work at the Aga Khan Museum while I was a student here, as a placement student actually. And I know that they're doing amazing job regarding the immigrant community.
Good.
Yes, they're doing. The team of education there are amazing people. Salima, Shirin, all of them. Mazlin, all of them are amazing.
Great groundwork.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you started it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Set the stage.
Okay.
We are currently planning to start a project with very young children, grade twos, based on the Conference of the Birds.
Oh, how wonderful.
And we are obviously tailing it to the young children. And they're not going to visit a king, but they're going to look at ways of being in the world, ways of communicating with one another, being respectful, being fair, and they're going on a journey through different lands and are then going to find that, in fact, the metaphor for this journey is that they find it within themselves. And it's going to be an 8-week project. It's going to begin in a couple of days, in fact.
Where?
And at one of the private
Kazan school in Poplar.
And
We'll let you know when it's up.
yes, and then we'll create an installation of all these wonderful birds in dialogue with one another.
Wonderful.
So that's
Yeah.
that's one of my
Well,
big steps.
Vanessa and I we always do a project for this school, a yearly project. And we were determined that whatever subject matter they wanted us to tackle, we were going to find a way of adapting the conference of the do it. Anyway, so
It has the potential to be adapted to a lot of things.
and anyway, we're very excited. It'll be a wonderful.
It also really interestingly brings everyone to understand, one hopes, in the end, that we are all one.
Yes.
That's the ultimate sort of lesson of the conference of the birds, is that oneness.
Yeah. You
And
know,
also self-recognition and self.
Yeah.
yes,
And we
exactly.
have it within ourselves.
Yeah.
We have a choice.
Communicate.
We can really or we can be nice.
Yeah. How old are these children?
These are grade twos, so they are 7-year-olds.
And their grandparents.
Oh,
And
that's-
their grandparents.
that's a piece
So
as
it's
well.
a
It's intergenerational project.
So the adults
Yeah.
also have to
Right.
reflect on.
They must.
Yes. We will.
Too late.
No, well,
I know you can learn at any age.
haven't worked
with
them, will make.
The children will be taught.
Yes, I think that when you look at yourself in the mirror with a new question, I think people can.
One could imagine they have other grandchildren too, and they can impart that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think Trump looks at himself in the mirror every day and learns nothing, but that's okay.
Big, beautiful.
Big, beautiful, and orange. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All three.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone.